Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lincoln Journal Stars Life in the Red podcast. Luke Mullin and Amie Just with your usual weekly update, talking basketball, baseball, softball at this time of the year. And
beach volleyball.
Yes. I was going to say, usually we kind of briefly mention the weather, just to give you a little time and place, what we're dealing with here in Lincoln. And today, as always, the swings of Nebraska weather have been very clear. Yesterday, 80 degrees. Today, cooling down, evidently some snow. Flurry potential, going to be warm again. Crazy week. But the highlight was, of course, some really unseasonably warm 80-degree temperatures that allowed Nebraska to play some outdoor beach volleyball. Really cool.
Yeah, for the first time ever. Yeah. Jalen Reyes was telling me, for the first time ever, they were able to get outside. They were hoping to get outside today, too, but it was just too windy for their match earlier, so they moved that back into their facility in the Hawks. But you take it where you can get it. Those types of reps, you can't they practice at various sand volleyball courts around town, but getting it in competition, you can't match that.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed, we have an article up on our website from Brent Wagner, who was there on the scene. I really enjoyed it.
I was there too.
Yeah,
it was
there too.
I mean, I couldn't help myself. I wasn't going to write about it, but I had to be there. It was a spectacle. Yeah.
And what I really enjoyed from Brent's article is he had a line that was this beach volleyball program is usually out of sight, out of mind. They play indoors. It's not, open to the public, but out in the open, and they've live streamed some matches too to get people to watch them as well, which is really nice. But having it out in the public, students can just come by, see that. I mean, I think really kind of gives that togetherness that they like, in any athletic program.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of support from the boyfriends of other sports that were there. A bunch of football guys were there. Ed Foley was there. I feel like I've seen Ed Foley 5 days in a row at this point, between the other beach volleyball match that I went to, the basketball game the other day, the Team Jack Gala. That man is everywhere.
Yeah. Little Energizer rabbit energy that he's got for sure. But really cool. Worth mentioning, the outdoor beach volleyball. So that was a notable event, but I think you mentioned basketball, and man, we got some wins to talk about. Usually it's, a little up and down, wins, losses. How are they doing? Well, men's team, women's team, only wins from this last week. So we will start with the women's basketball team. And really, I think both of these games, they controlled them. I mean, they were really impressive in that 75-50 win over Northwestern. Logan Nisley, we talked about her last time, had another great game, 12 points, filled up the stat sheet. And Natalie Potts, 18 points, 10 rebounds, won her 7th Big Ten Freshman of the Week award. Also had a good game there against Minnesota. But man, she is incredible. And both of those players really coming on strong here.
Yeah, like I said, last week, 2 weeks ago, you might as well just give the award to Natalie right now. Yeah. I mean, come on, for real. And then with how Logan Nisley has played, she might be playing her way into the all-freshman team. She has shown that she can do it. She's just clicked lately. And I love watching her play. She's fun. And it's not only that she's scoring at a high level, but she's creating other opportunities for other people too.
Yeah, really great all-around player. Doing a lot for the women's team right now. And on senior day, it was their 3rd win in a row, defeated Minnesota 70-51. Again, led early, just didn't let Minnesota get back in the game. They played really good defense, held them to a pretty poor shooting night overall. And Jazz Shelley led the way, 16 points. Alexis Markowski had a very similar total, but worth mentioning, of course, Jazz Shelley, one of the seniors that was honored there, Darian White, Maddie Kroll, and Annika Stewart, the others. So 4 of them seniors and 3 of them transfers. It's kind of crazy with all the points, all the games that Jazz Shelley has had in a Nebraska uniform. I had to think back, wow, she's a transfer. She had a, good career before she came to Nebraska too. Really impressive.
Yeah. A point that Amie Williams made in the video that Nebraska women's basketball put out is all 4 of those seniors had completely different stories. Ani Stewart has been here for her entire career. Jess Shelley has been here for 3 years. Maddie Kroll has been here for 2, and Darian White has been here for 1. So it's just really interesting how all different their paths were, but that they all converged here. And I thought that was a really interesting point.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a little bit of a celebration because regular season almost done. One last final game left for the Husker women's team. That's Sunday, March 3rd. They're on the road at Illinois. It's a big one because Big Ten tournament seeding, very much a topic of discussion right now, and very simple for Nebraska. Win, and they finish 4th in the conference, get the crucial double bye.
Yeah, and I think they'll do it. Illinois is respectable, right? But I think that the way Nebraska has played as of late, that they'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
And it would be so good for them to be able to secure that. Because the Big Ten women's tournament, unlike the men's, the men's tournament, I think anything can happen. The women's tournament, everybody's earmarking, it'll be Ohio State and Iowa in the final. Not if Nebraska has anything to say about that. So Nate, our editor, Nate and I were looking over potential seedings and what those potential matchups could look like. And yeah, if things hold, Nebraska could end up seeing Ohio State, which would be something.
But what's the, I've not looked all into the tiebreaker situation. So if they lose, is that
they
down
bump
to the 5th?
Down to 5?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is the situation. Again, Sunday they play at Illinois. So a very big game there as they look towards the conference tournament. But NCAA tournament wise, no real change in terms of their bracketology. Last time we talked, they were kind of number 8, maybe number 9 somewhere there. Seem to be really solidly on that number 8 line right now. So.
Yep. Yeah. And the only way I can foresee that changing is if they make some moves at the Big Ten tournament.
Yep. So that is where the women's basketball team is at right now. One regular season game left. The men's basketball team, a couple more games before they get to their postseason action. But they finally did it. Finally won on the road, and they are on fire right now. Starting off with that road win, 85-70 over Indiana. And it was an interesting game in many ways. The dominant, first half scoring effort, the near collapse in the second half to grind it out there at the end. I mean, just in totality, that was a win that they really, really needed.
Yeah. And we had seen that type of storyline play out before, dominant first half, and then it all just kind of falls apart for them. We saw that in Minnesota. We saw that at Rutgers. And then, but unlike in those games, Nebraska found a way to, make some shots and get back in it and then finish the game with a double digit, like 15 plus point lead.
Yeah.
So good for them. Basketball, and stupid cliche that is accurate. Basketball's a game of runs, and you have to be able to withstand them when they happen. And Nebraska had showed this season that they hadn't really been able to do that, especially on the road. And now finally, they did it. The boogeyman is dead.
Yeah, they played 20 minutes of really good basketball, 10 minutes of bad basketball, and then 10 fine minutes there at the end. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want to demarcate it. But definitely I thought that first half was really impressive. Casey and Tobinaga and Jamarcus Lawrence, they were on fire, hitting those 3-pointers early. Jamarcus Lawrence 5 for 5 from 3 in that game. Juwan Gary was even hitting some threes. Like, they were feeling it offensively there. But when it all kind of broke down, as you mentioned, we've seen that a couple times this year. Like, the offense just struggled, but they were finally able to get into a little bit more rhythm late in that one. That really helped them pull out the victory. And I think that kind of showed, that maybe carried over a little bit into their home game there against Minnesota. It was another dominant win, 73-55. I mean, the entire arena was loud. It felt like a game where you could kind of sense the energy, the excitement about this team kind of moving forward here in the last month of the season.
Oh yeah, you could feel it from the beginning, and then it was a really ugly first 10 minutes for both teams offensively. Nebraska's defense was good, and then Josiah Alex set the tone really early on the glass. He grabbed once again 2 really big offensive rebounds early. But neither team hit the 10-point mark until over halfway through the first half. It was brutal. And then finally got into a groove there. But yeah, it was ugly to start. Yeah. And then PBA got really into it once shots started falling.
Yeah, and second half was certainly, I think, a lot more of the brand of basketball Nebraska wanted to play. But, you got to credit this team too. And I was watching on TV and the announcers were saying, hey, this is, a Fred Hoiberg coach team that, he comes to Nebraska, it's all about offense, pushing it. And I mean, these last 2 seasons in particular, their defense has just grown so much. And yeah, for sure to keep the team in when you're not shooting the ball. We've seen that a couple times. And this one was so huge to keep Minnesota off of it. But Juwan Gary, he was hitting those threes again. I'm like, man, this guy's a 3-point shooter.
He had 4 3-pointers, a career high for him, 22 points. That's also his career high. And what a time to I'm not going to say peak. We don't want to say that yet, but, continue the climb. And as I noted in my takeaways, as I was sitting there watching him, I couldn't help but feel like just so fortunate that we're able to watch him in this moment. Because if you remember Rutgers, the sky was falling, the world was ending. He himself thought his season was done. Then he, obviously we find out that that's not the case. Yeah. And he puts up 22 points in a much needed win that could help take Nebraska off of the bubble squarely into the tournament picture.
Yeah, well, it's so exciting, this team. Rick Mass can hit threes too. Like, they're so versatile. Obviously Casey can come up with some huge scoring, but I mean, Bryce Williams has had some big games. Like
CJ Wilshire's had some big games, and then that.
Marcus has been so good.
He's been incredible lately. And then you look at Sam Hoiberg, like, he's not scoring a whole lot, but like, he's been like a junkyard dog on defense. Like, he's good for a pick 6 almost every game, it feels like, and just completely takes other teams' leading scores just completely out of the picture. And it's fun watching it all come together.
Yeah, the rotation's looking really good right now. The players that Nebraska has in, very well defined in their roles and doing a great job at it. But halftime dunk contest.
Let's go.
That was crazy. People were all over online. This is better than the NBA dunk contest. And
it was.
They're probably right. Yeah.
It was awesome. It was so awesome. When I found out that Thomas Fidone was going to be competing, I'm like, oh God, please don't get hurt.
Yeah,
please don't get hurt. I was like that for everybody, but like Thomas in particular, I'm like, please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. And he made it to the final and made a dunk from basically the free throw line. What the hell? It was incredible. But Jeremiah Charles, obviously, far and away the winner there. That may have been the best halftime show they've had in a long time. Too bad you can't do that every week. It makes it less special. But it was so fun. But my favorite dunk, though, was shout out Emmett Johnson for trying to dunk over Matt Rule.
The confidence there. Oh, man.
Incredible. He was really close to pulling it off,
just the trail leg.
It was, oh man,
that far away there on the dunk attempt. Yeah.
And then sources say if Heidrich would have made the final, that Harper Murray was going to set him the basketball.
Oh wow, that would have got the crowd going.
But yeah, no, I was like, what the heck? That would have been great. You're right here. She's like, we were saving it for the final, and I'm like, well, dang it, that would have been
chance. Yeah,
that would have been
next year.
Awesome. That would have been
save it for next year. But I mean, really, really cool event. And, I think you got to credit the football coaching staff for just having that kind of attitude that like, hey, these guys are athletic. Like, let them go out, have fun, support the basketball team. And I will say, Jeremiah Charles, definite advantage there. The most recent basketball. He was playing basketball last winter. So he's, he was ready for that, I think.
Yeah. Well, on Fred Hoiberg's radio show, he, made a joke that maybe Jeremiah could be a 3-sport athlete. I mean,
oh man.
I mean, he looked the part.
That's right. Maybe if we ever run into COVID, depleted roster situation, we all remember the Noah Vedral, Brant Banks filling out the roster.
We do indeed. And it doesn't, have to be COVID. A situation happened this year in women's basketball. TCU had just a run of season-ending injuries, and they signed one of their volleyball players and some people off the street. I mean, here, even with Nebraska beach volleyball, they signed a player off of the street, out of the student body, because they needed someone.
Yeah.
So
anything can happen.
Anything can happen. So yeah, Jeremiah Charles, keep your phone on, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, really cool event that got a ton of love online. People all over really excited to see just kind of the athletes on display there. So that was a cool moment. But as we kind of go back, big picture about this men's
to actual
team.
basketball.
Yeah, I know. Not talking about football players, Duncan. But I mean, they've won 4 in a row. And, last time it was very much on the bubble. This has really solidified, their tournament position for now.
I'm
a lot can change.
I'm not gonna say they're a lock. I'm not gonna to say to put it in Sharpie. They still I still don't feel confident declaring them bound for the NCAA tournament until they win one more road game.
Yeah, they say beat Ohio State, and I think they're good as gold.
And as of the other day, I haven't looked today. That would be a quad 1 win.
Yeah, I think it still is.
Okay.
So,
and everyone's like, oh, Ohio State's not very good. The quadrants change based on location of game. And it's a very low quad 1 win. Like, they're on the bubble of being a quad 1 versus quad 2 team. So it's not like, oh, it's the same as beating Purdue. It's not the same as beating Purdue. There's tiers to it. But that would be super helpful. And that, I think, would solidify things for them.
Yes, for sure. So that is Thursday, 5:30. Nebraska will be on the road at Ohio State, and they will follow that up. They will be back in Lincoln on Sunday for senior night. Rutgers comes to Lincoln. And by the way, those NCAA tournament projections, CBS has Nebraska as a 10 seed. ESPN has them at number 9 as of Tuesday, those latest projections. But got to talk about the double bye for the Husker men, too. Currently 5th, half a game out of 4th place. How are they looking for that double bye in your eyes?
So Nebraska's in a good spot when it comes to the tiebreaker situation. So they have the head-to-head over Michigan State. So if Nebraska and Michigan State end up with the same Big Ten record, Nebraska beats them out for positioning. And then you have Wisconsin and Northwestern. Now, Nebraska went 1-1 against both of those teams, but if you move down in the tiebreaker procedures, Nebraska edges out both of them because weirdly enough, I don't know why, and I'm not going to dig into this, but the second piece of tiebreaker, for when 2 teams are tied, 3 or more, it's a little different. But when 2 teams are tied with the same Big Ten record, if you split the regular season, then the second point is that it goes based off of the record against the number 1 team. So that's Purdue. So Nebraska is 1-0 against Purdue, whereas the other 2 have at least 1 loss. So Nebraska would win out in that regard. So Nebraska's good in the tiebreaker position. But I think it's still a little too early to say how things are going to shake out. But yeah, it's Nebraska has the most favorable schedule compared to those 2 teams.
Yeah, this is complex. This is why we need you to break it down. And
yeah,
I'm sure at this point there's hundreds, thousands of mathematical possibilities.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a little early for me to say, well, root for them, root for this. Obviously, just root for Nebraska to win if you're a Nebraska fan, and then we'll kind of see the picture come into clearer. But obviously, you want Purdue to keep winning too, so Purdue stays in the number 1 spot, and I think that will happen. But yeah, if the number 1 team is Illinois, that changes things from a tiebreaker's perspective. But I think Purdue has a big enough lead that I don't want to say it's safe, but it's safe.
Yeah. If Illinois is the number 1 seed, that blown call looks even worse in retrospective. So that is the men's basketball seeding update. Again, 3 regular season games left for them as they close out this campaign. And onto the baseball and softball teams just starting up their spring seasons. Baseball, they were, of course, on the road, as always is the case here in February. They were playing Grand Canyon, won 3 of 4 games against them, and now 4-3 on the season. Won those first 2 games behind some really good starting pitching efforts. Drew Christo, 6 inning start. We kind of mentioned him before the season. We were hoping that he can maybe fulfill that potential, be one of those top starters. So that was really nice to see from him. And then Brett Sears been really a strong Friday starter. Both of his Friday starts so far. Another 6-inning effort from him. And you bats were hot in that one, 11-1 win. But things got chippy later in the series.
That they did.
So it was on Saturday. Really, it was a back and forth game. And Nebraska really ended up missing some chances there. Left bases loaded late. Grand Canyon came back to win that one. And really at the end, there was teams kind of came together. It's kind of baseball, whatever, stuff happens. I'm sure Grand Canyon was very, very excited to get that win. But Sunday, this kind of got some national headlines. Nebraska was up 8-3. Grand Canyon comes back, ties it up with a grand slam. And their hitter, Tyler Wilson, he was ejected for bat flipping. The rationale. Both teams have been warned. I think
Stupid.
That was
Stupid.
Yeah. Let him have fun.
I'm not saying that Tyler was stupid for bat flipping. It's stupid that he was ejected for that. Like let him have fun. Who cares? Get off my lawn, Grandpa. Like, have fun. This is college athletics. Ooh, a bat flip. So scary.
All right.
So intimidating. It's like the NFL and the taunting. Like, who cares? Who cares? Not me.
I know. And the thing too that gets me about bat flipping per se is like that is one of the most subjective things. Like, how do you quantify like the showmanship? Like, you just lay it down like that. That's a statement in itself. Like, come on.
It's stupid.
So this was worth bringing up because this was one of the college baseball national highlights of the week. Guy gets ejected after hitting a game-tying grand slam. But, it's worth underscoring. This was a back and forth couple days for the Husker baseball team. And that was a tough moment for them. Obviously, they were up 8-3. You get that Grand Canyon ties it up, but Nebraska bullpen really stepped up. They held them scoreless rest of the way. And Huskers ended up going ahead. Dylan Carey scored on a pass ball, and they won that one 10-8 because the 3-1 weekend, 2-2 weekend feel very, very different there. So
yes, they do, especially when it's all, against the same team.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, 4-3 right now. They will be going to College of Charleston this weekend. That's an undefeated College of Charleston team. Once again, 4 games there on the road for the Husker baseball team. So continuing their start to the season. And as for the softball team, they had a very, very eventful weekend as well at the Mary Nutter Classic. Played 5 programs, which made the NCAA tournament last year, several of them top 25 in the coaches poll. And 2-3 weekend, I'd identified that as a pretty good target, but man, they could have won 4 easily. It was in their grasp.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you hear, oh, they're gonna go 2-3, you're like, okay, and then you see how it happened, and you're like, oh, that's a disappointment.
Yeah.
Like going into that, I did not think 2-3 would be disappointing, but the way that it happened, it's just, oh man.
Yeah, really tough. So the first day of action there, San Diego State and UCLA, 2 different games that Nebraska had, and walk-off losses to both of them, which was tough enough. But consider a San Diego State game, it was really kind of a pitcher's duel, tight. And then, San Diego State, they get the walk-off hit. Nebraska comes back right away, and they played a phenomenal 6 innings against a UCLA program that's always amongst the nation's best. And then 5 straight runs there in the bottom of the 7th. UCLA walks them off. It doesn't get any tougher than that.
Yeah, it just, you have it in your grasp, and then you take your foot off the gas just for a second, and it's over.
Yeah, but credit where credit's due.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
Response. You have those 2 losses. It would have been very easy to potentially let that, impact your weekend. And immediately, their most impressive win of the year, they come back, beat Oregon 6-0. Sarah Harness and Kaylin Kinney combined for the shutout. And to me, this was one of the stories of the weekend was pitching and hitting, because Nebraska's hitting, they showed up. All of these games, maybe they were easing in against San Diego State a little bit, but the bats were going, a lot of homers. The top of the order is playing really, really well. But the pitching, the Jordy ball out, this was always going to be kind of a topic of concern. And to see Harness and Kinney, you have that game, show their full potential. That was really exciting to see for the pitching staff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that going into the season, you thought that, all right, Nebraska's going to be super competitive there. And you think you're going to have Jordy Ball to do it. And for them to remain competitive even without her, even though they did lose several games the way that they did, I still think that's a positive.
Yeah, I think absolutely the positives do outweigh the negatives from this weekend because, they looked really strong against this really good competition. And that was also true on the final day of action. Really tough, though. Another blown lead. They're really going to be regretting that a little bit because they led 5-0 over Utah, ended up allowing 9 straight runs. And, you have it going again. Like, wow, this is so tough for this team to deal with. But they bounce back immediately. Cal State Fullerton scores a couple runs in the top of the first. Like, this pitching staff is getting dinged. Shout out to freshman Caitlin Olinsky. Comes in, throws 4 scoreless innings. Some clutch hits from the lineup, too. That was a win that they really needed to close out this tournament with a win. And this team's freshmen, they have been really, really impressive to start this season.
Yeah, it was a big question mark for me what they were going to look like, how much work they were going to get at all, right? And now that they've really been thrown into the fire, and I've been impressed with what they've been able to do.
Yeah, and in that game alone against Fullerton, Emerson Coate, fellow freshman, she started the game in the circle, hit a home run. Samantha Bland, she hit a grand slam against Utah earlier in the day, hit 2 home runs over the weekend. All 3 of those players, all freshmen, key players for the team, so they're coming along strong. And the standout of the weekend, though, Billie Andrews.
My God.
I thought she would maybe win National Player of the Week award. She's got to settle for Big Ten, just Conference Player of the Week, which second week in a row, by the way. Sydney Gray won it last time, but got to tell you the stat line. 5 games, Billie Andrews, 13 for 21 at the plate. That's 62%. Again, 5
Insane.
games, 4 home runs. This was just incredible. Like, to hit at that clip and to hit for power, too.
And against the teams that they were playing, too. Insane.
It was to the point where she was coming up to bat in those final couple of games. It just felt inevitable. She found a single like right down the right field line. And it was just falling for her, certainly in that tournament. But I gotta take a look at the national home run leaders here because I think she's in the top 10.
She's gotta be.
Yeah. If
she's not.
And she missed 4 games too.
I know. It's wild. If she's not up there, I hate to know how many home runs the other people have.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was a really, really great weekend for Billie Andrews as that Husker softball team goes 2 for 3 at the Mary Nutter. And now season record 8-6. And I don't think they'll be too displeased with that. It's been a really high level of competition. But really, they need to lock in for this series this weekend. Home opening, newly expanded Mullin Stadium, going to be a large crowd on hand. Missouri and Wichita State are the opponents, 2 of the other top softball teams around the Midwest, and they're really going to challenge Nebraska this weekend, I think.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, it's going to be the start of a long season for you at Mullin.
Yeah, 20 plus games, something like
Your
that.
Second home.
Yep. Hey, I'm excited because a lot of the times these, late February, early March, it's 40 degrees a lot of the time. We're looking at 60, I think, to 70 in the forecast.
What are we looking at in the forecast this week? Well, it's Nebraska. So, all right, high of 64, low of 36, windy.
Yeah. The winds, we'll see. Maybe a Billie Andrews home run will get caught in the jet stream. Something like that.
Wouldn't surprise me if she hit a ball that high.
These heavy winds. So really excited this weekend. Again, softball team opening up its home campaign. So stay tuned, journalstar.com. I'll have all that game coverage for you. Key basketball games as well going on this week. All the updates, and we'll be back with it. Next week, we look ahead to the men's and women's NCAA tournament coming up in March. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Life in the Red. See you next time.